So we are finally here. The Planet Crafter 1.0 full release. I have been so excited for this. And if you are new to Planet Crafter and you want to see more about this game, I would recommend checking out my 100-day video before watching this. Because this video, we are aiming to 100% the game. I'm going to go through this as quick as possible, but we're going to make sure we experience everything and anything in this game. So obviously we're going to start out how we always start, but now we have a nice new cutscene when the game starts. Brand new, very nice, and I am all for it. So the first thing we do, we go round, we gather up the necessary material so we can make our bigger backpack and our bigger oxygen tank, because obviously we need to breathe. Then we set up with the construction, microchip, and whatever else the game requires us to do in the early stage. Then we've got to set up with some power so we get the wind turbines going. Obviously we're not going to have these for long because they are not very good at the start, and we are, before you know it, going to be having nuclear power, and then even power with gems, whatever they, the pulsar quartz, we're going to be using them. We start off with some pressure by getting down some tier 1 drills. We want to get that terraformation up nice and quick. Like I said, we're going to be going through this rather quick. Until we get to the, to the new stuff, there's no point of me, hashing over the stuff we've seen multiple times before. But anyway, like you see, we've got a vegetube set up, we've got our first plank going, we've got our heat coming through, and we have got our pressure. We then decide we need more drills. We want to get through this as quick as possible. So we set up a bunch before we do a bit of exploration. This time, the only difference from the usual start is that I decided to start at the waterfall instead of starting in the usual spot, meaning I had access to some quite nice stuff early on in the game. And this is why I recommend for people that, are new to the game, probably don't watch this, as you're going to be seeing me getting stuff quite early on, and you're also not really going to understand a lot of the stuff I'm doing if you've never played the game before. But as you can see there, we got a tier 2 oxygen tank, a tier 2 backpack, and as well as getting the tier 2 exoskeleton, and that pretty much lasts us until the end of the game. We don't really upgrade it. Things are still going well. We are getting down more drills. At this point, it's just about getting that terraformation up, just so you can start unlocking the new stuff. We then stumbled into the mushroom cave, as we're really close to it, and you never know, there might be some good loot inside just for us. And this is where we find our first Warden's key, and we get the coordinates starting the main story, but we leave that just for now as we're prioritising terraformation. And we're already upgraded to solar panels because obviously we're going to start using a lot of power, especially now that we've got heaters on the go. We place down a blueprint screen just in case we get any microchips that need decoding, and then we start by upgrading our tier 1 drills into tier 2, as they are a lot better than the tier 1. I'm not going to lie, Planet Crafter is one of them games where I can just play for ages and not even realise how long it's been, because it's hard to find a game where you get lost in it anymore. It's difficult to play a game and then when you look at the time and go, I've been playing for hours and not realise, and this is one of them games that does it for me. It's amazing and I love it. So I really do hope this is a game that you see and you do try and play. But anyway, we need to upgrade our power situation. Things are not looking great. We are constantly running out of power, so we make sure to get many solar panels down. But obviously they need aluminium and we are slowly running out. Anyway, we decide to head out and do a bit of exploration and go into our first wreck. If you don't know, wrecks are just crashed ships, and you can go in and you can find a lot of loot, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but you always find like blueprint microchips, super alloys, and just useful stuff. Things that are going to help you build the necessary equipment to get your terraformation up. I personally wouldn't recommend going through all the wrecks as quick as possible because the loot does change in the wrecks depending on your terraformation level. So if you're really early on and you explore every single wreck, you're only going to get basic stuff. Whereas if you leave it till a bit later on, you'll start getting fertilizers or, like tree seeds or something very useful. But anyway, we head back and we start decoding our microchips. We can now make tier 2 agility boots, meaning we can run fast as fuck, boy. And we are definitely going to be doing that, because one thing about this game is you get around so slow until you get that jetpack. Once you unlock the jetpack, it is rapid. Anyway, we're getting heaters, we're getting them built, and we're looking and we're running out of room very quick. So we decide enough is enough, let's build a new base, and what we're actually going to do is try and build one that sort of goes on top of this rock a little bit. I decided it might be cool to build things a little separate than usual. Usually I sort of build everything in the same building, but this time I want to separate everything, meaning we've got a building where we can sleep, we can store all the awards you find, the effigies, whatever they're called. But then also we've got a room for storage, a room for the heaters, a room for, you know, butterflies. Everything that we could need, we've got in separate rooms. So once they get built, we decide to head back to our old base, and we literally get stuck in it where we have to break the door and build a new one to get out because it is that rammed full of stuff. But we place down the necessary screen so we can see how we're getting on before we place down our blueprint screen and our energy screen. And obviously I've got to make sure they're level, because otherwise they would have played with me the whole time. I can't handle it. Things need to be symmetrical. Anyway, we're now in our new storage room. We're slowly setting up with some chests, just some basic stuff, until we unlock the actual lockers. They are obviously a lot bigger than the chest, and also they cost 3 times as much. So after we change up some of the plants in our vegetubes, we then decide to place a couple more drills down before setting up our crafting station in the new storage area. We then decided to head out and do a bit more exploration. Obviously we want to get out and look around the area and see if we can find anything new. Obviously I do know the map very well, but obviously we're always on the lookout for the golden chests because they give us very good stuff. One thing I do enjoy about the game is that you can leave your base, you can go out and do a bit of exploration, but it also means that the progress doesn't stop. Anyway, we head back home, we decode our blueprints, and then we make the tier 3 oxygen tank. And once that's done, we decide to set up the heating room. This is where we're just going to put all our heaters in, means they're out the way, but it also means we've got somewhere we can go and we're not constantly piling them up in our storage room or in our usual base. So we place these down and we get the room looking very nice. This is also going to help our terraformation a lot. Until you unlock rockets, it's sort of very slow. But then we head up back to our main base and we start placing down some tier 2 vegetubes, and we put in our golden seed. Obviously that is the golden plant, it's the best one you can get, and it is the best one you can find anywhere. So obviously if you find them, the best thing to do is use them anytime you can. We then also place down some more tier 2 drills. You're going to start spotting a recurring theme here. We just place down a lot of stuff and we just constantly progress. We want to get through this as quick as possible. If we ain't, you know, placing down more machines or upgrading in some way, we're out exploring, and it's the best thing to do. So we decide to go up to the waterfall, because obviously not only can you find super alloy all the way up, there's also a gold chest just on the very top. So if you've not played this before and this is your first video watching on it, do make sure you head to the waterfall when you find it and get to the top of it for a golden chest. But obviously it is difficult to get up there without the jetpack, so we'd leave it for now as we're not really in need of it, and we just carry on grabbing any materials we might need around the waterfall before placing down some more heaters. Obviously we are out of power again, but we've got tier 2 solar panels and they are helping us massively. And now we've got the big boy tier 3 drills that are helping us, as well as now we've got lockers as well, so we can place them down. It means our storage is going to be so much better. And we go have a look at the terraformation screen to see that we are 60% of the way to blue sky, meaning the sky's going to turn blue. We have checked off the first stage of terraformation. I do believe there's 12 stages altogether, so there is quite a lot to do. We then come across, well, I don't really know what to call this area. I usually just call it the fart hole. But we come across the fart hole and we do find ourselves a cave. This cave was amazing. So much aluminium, or aluminum if you're American. So much of it. And obviously whilst inside we made sure that we set up like a living quarters and a door just so we could get oxygen from that. So if you've never played the game and you're running out of oxygen, just build that and then you can get your oxygen levels back up nice and easy. We then placed down a marker just so we know where we're going to be, and we didn't really know what these were, so we just called it like Crystal Cave, thinking, yeah, we'll remember. And then we found out we could actually emote now. This is all new. I thought this was sick. So we went back home and we emptied our inventory into some of our new lockers, and we carried on with more terraformation. We were placing down the new tier 3 drills. Obviously, we want to get many of these down because we are really, really close to blue sky at this point. We place down the new heater, and if you look on the top right, you will see we're about to hit blue sky. And we had done it, and things were looking good. And the next step was going to be clouds. But before that, we decided to head over to the volcano area where you can get a bunch of obsidian, but mainly you get iridium over there, and that is what we need at the moment. Don't get me wrong, there's many places you can find iridium, but this is the easiest for me as it is the closest. There is a lot of caves where you get iridium, but again, this is the main area for me as it is nice and close. So we grab what we can, but then we find our first underground base, and these are just abandoned bases from people that have come to the planet before us, trying to, inhabit it and trying to terraform it themselves, but all have failed until us, because we are amazing. Obviously, I mean, we are here because we are a criminal, and, we got caught with over 200 copies of illegally downloaded Cars 2. It's not my fault. It's just what the people want. I'm out there trying to make a living, but either way, we got sent down, and now we are on a planet. We find another wreck, we head inside, but we don't do too much in this wreck because a lot of it you do need the tier 2 deconstruction chips. You can get through a lot of it. But also that it's just not really a good wreck, I ain't gonna lie. It's one of the worst wrecks you can find. But we grab what we can before we make our way out and head back home. Find a couple of chests on the way. It's always good to check. I don't have fear of missing out. I have fear of missing out on loot. That's what we have. We have FOMO L. We don't want to miss that loot. Anyway, through the volcano area, we found a cave that led us to the mushroom forest. So this was a new shortcut I didn't even know existed, but either way, we went through there, made a quick base, and then we made our way back home before we did our blueprints and got the tier 3 mining, obviously, as well as the recycling machine. We had a look how we were getting on with our terraformation, and things were looking good for us. We placed out our first tier 3 vegetube, and obviously we got to put our golden seed in before placing down more heaters. We then decide to head to the waterfall and go to the top so we can finally get this golden chest. Obviously, we have a look what's inside, and it's not the best, but we get another golden seed, and then things are always good. But then we decide to jump off because we were low on oxygen, and I really thought we were going to die at this point, but somehow we didn't, and it only took like half a health, so it's very weird. We then end up finding another golden chest. That is good for us. The loot is very nice. So once we grab that, we head back to our base and make our new advanced crafting table. With that, obviously, we can now make better stuff, but obviously we are out of power again. So we place down a new solar panel. Then we decide to upgrade to the tier 4 oxygen tank, because obviously we need more oxygen. Then we do the exact same, but with the backpack. Again, obviously more room is good. And then we get our first grass spreader going before we make a bed. You can't actually sleep in this game, but it's just, to make it look good. Then we're back out and we are doing more exploration. We come across another wreck, and this one is kind of like a cargo ship. It's just full of, containers, full of loot, the usual good stuff. But obviously we've got to do the usual. We set up living quarters, we make it so we can get oxygen if we need it. We go into the wreck, we get everything of use before we leave. Obviously we want to make sure we get everything we can. This wreck altogether is not too bad, but obviously the main thing we're after right now is sort of like iridium and aluminium, and that's sort of the important thing for this sort of progression stage. Once we place down the marker, we start heading back the other way until we return home as it's getting dark. The next day, we make our first nuclear reactor. I mean, we were only on solar panels the day before, and already we're on this big boy stuff. But as you can see, our available power is so much better now, and also, we have finished the cloud stage, and we are now onto the rain stage. That stage went through rapidly. It was like it never even happened. But we placed down some new tier 3 heaters. These things are going to make our terraformation go up even quicker. Then we get a atmospheric water collector, meaning we can just get water from the air. It means getting water so much more easier. And as you can see, we're doing quite well. The levels aren't quite there yet, but before you know it, we're going to be doing good. But we head back out towards the volcano, and we are out getting more iridium. We were running low, and obviously we need resources. We make ourselves another grass spreader so we can get multiple of these all over the place before we even increase our storage capacity even a bit more. Then we decide it is time to get the jetpack. We need this. It's going to make getting around so much more easier. As you can see, we're now able to fly around, and it's so much quicker than walking. With our new jetpack, we head out to do a bit more exploring and come across the asteroid field. This place looks a bit funky, but again, it is full of good loot. A lot of aluminium, you can get obsidian, you can get, I think, pulsar quartz, even osmium. Things are good round here. So we grab everything we need before we head back home. We don't really need to spend too much time out here. Grab what we need, head back and build some more stuff. But obviously we set up a temporary living compartment just there, just in case we were getting low on oxygen and we needed to replenish it. But as we headed back home, we decided it might be a good idea to build our first biodome. Obviously we were out of power again, so we decided to place down a few solar panels just for now until we had enough to make more nuclear generators. But then we put a door onto the biodome. I'm not gonna lie, the biodome is kind of pointless. I mean, it increases the biomass a little bit, you get some plants out of it. Other than that, it's not really that good. But anyway, we are back out, we're exploring, and we are looking for more good stuff. We decide to go around the desert a little bit, looking for potentially any good chests we can find or any good location. I kind of know where we are because it's one of my old base locations from another world, but anyway, we come across another underground base. And again, someone that's been on the planet and they've used this once to try and survive. But that didn't really have much to offer, so we went up to the crashed satellite to see if that had any good loot. Again, nothing crazy. But we made our way to the uranium cave that was just around the corner and placed down a living quarter just so obviously, again, we had somewhere to breathe, but we placed down a marker so we could always get back here if we ever couldn't remember where it was. I placed down a lot of the markers just to make use of them because last time I played I never put any markers down and I sort of just, you know, went places from memory, and that's still how I play it now. But with the markers it just looks a bit better in videos and on streams. We then decided, let's make a nice area over on the hill so where we can put all our new power generators. We wanted them out the way, we didn't want them, you know, crowding our base too much. So we placed them up on the hill, and hopefully this is going to make our whole area look a bit better and keep up with our power generator. So now we were running low on super alloy, so we grabbed what we could from the waterfall before going back to the base and making our first miner. And lucky enough for us, where we placed it, it was able to mine sulfur for us, so we didn't actually have to go out and collect any. Then we got rid of some of our tier 2 drills to make more tier 3. Sort of pointless having tier 2 when tier 3s was just so much more better. We then came across a bit of a random cave, and inside was osmium and sulfur, so we did actually find some sulfur, even though we don't really need any, but osmium is good to have. We're going to use that for quite a few things in the future, but whilst we were in there, we grabbed the iridium and the osmium and sort of just left the sulfur because our miner was going to get it for us. We decided to explore a little further and then made our way into the ice fields. This is sort of the usual spawn location, but it's nothing great, but it's nothing terrible. But anyway, we find some good loot there, so we grab what we can before making our way back home. But of course, we put down a marker so we could find this location in the future. Once we returned home, we made our iridium into a rod for easy storage before making a launch platform. From here, we were going to be able to send rockets up into the sky, which was going to multiply our heat and our pressure just starting off. We do unlock better rockets in the future, but with these it also rains down iridium and uranium depending on what rocket you send up. As you can see, we had to have a little emote sending up our first rocket. Things were looking good for us, but obviously we went round and picked up all the iridium and the uranium that came from these asteroids. We were now pretty much having a big abundance of them, and we didn't really need to go out and collect any more for quite a while. Our terraformation levels were now looking really good, and we were onto liquid water, meaning before you know it, we were going to have lakes, you know, water on the ground. Things were going to look good for us. But again, we were running low on super alloy, so we went to the volcano area, and you can get a lot of super alloy just lying around, so we grabbed as much as we could before heading home. And once back, we set up a heat rocket. Pretty much this is going to raid down uranium, but it also increases our heat production. So obviously we made sure to grab all the uranium we could before placing down our first biolab. Here we could craft a bunch of different things like fertilizer, explosive powder, bio nuggets, the lot. We then decide to send another rocket to space, another pressure one. For some reason this one just fell and I thought this was it, the world's getting blown up, I've just sent a rocket into the waterfall, but we were lucky enough to survive it. But we grabbed all the iridium, like I keep saying, we're going to have a big abundance. And this, again, we're placing down more grass spreaders. Again, with a lot of this, we just place a lot down and make sure that we have a big collection of them. Then we place some food growers down because we are going to run out of food at some point. And again, power, it's always going to be an issue, so we can place down as many generators as we can. But we're out, we're exploring more, and we come across sort of like a semi-wreck. It's not really a wreck, but it is. It's got a little bit of loot inside, but nothing crazy. Big bit of advice, always grab the space food, because I'm not going to lie, you run out really quick, and it is good just to have. It's better than a lot of the food you can grow. I mean, I wish I took my own advice, because you can see I do leave a lot of it behind, but now I'm regretting it. I wish I grabbed so much more food, because I ran out of food so often. But we came across another area. It's got a wreck, it's got sort of like a canyon area, so I placed down a marker, placed down a living quarters, and we go around exploring. So we grab everything we can. Obviously, super alloy, we're always grabbing it. It's very essential. Fabric's going to be quite good in the future. Again, I leave a lot behind, but so is Lerma seeds, believe it or not. Then lucky us, we find a gold chest. Nothing crazy inside, but it is better than nothing. Then we enter another wreck. We have a look inside. Again, a lot of blueprints, a lot of random chests with just stuff that isn't really that useful. But we go in and we grab what we can. Once we get home, we pretty much store out our storage because, as you can see, you know, things ain't always going to look good when our inventory is overflowing and we've got random stuff all over the place. So we make a few new lockers and place everything where it belongs before decoding our new microchips. Won't really say we got anything too crazy, but, you know, it's always useful to get. We then decide to explore deeper into the fart pit. Inside here you can find an underground base as well as I think an abandoned one and a few chests. It is quite good loot. So obviously we go through here and we make sure we loot up. We grab everything we need and we just leave the boring stuff behind. Obviously we do usually read the messages we find. I mean, if you want to read them properly, I would recommend pausing the video because I don't stay on for long. But we come across the other base in the area. We place down a living quarters just so we've got oxygen and we go in and explore. To be fair, this one is quite big and does have quite a lot of loot, so it is quite good to go through. This is why exploration always sort of plays well in this game because you're always guaranteed to get something at least usable. And it also alleviates the need to be crafting as much, because there's nothing worse when you're constantly looking for, you know, more materials over and over again. Whereas with this, you can go out, you can explore, you can have fun, as well as finding useful stuff. But anyway, we keep going deeper into this base. You can see we're getting tree seeds, we're getting pulsar quartz, we're getting some good quality stuff. But it is quite easy to get lost in this one, and I do end up getting lost a few times. But as you can see from the messages, the person we're talking about, who has been here before us, is starting to go a little crazy. Well, that is not a problem for us because we are sending out more rockets. You may as well just call me Rocket Man because we send them out like there's no tomorrow. But we decide to expand on our power area just a little bit. We're constantly running out of power and it is just not good enough for us. And then we want to place down some more heaters. But obviously before we can even place more down, we do need to expand the sort of heater room. So we do that before we place down a few more. We then go out and place down a few more drills. Then we're back to base to craft our first mining speed upgrade. I can't really tell a difference when I put these on. I kind of just did it for the fun of it. Same thing with the compass, a bit pointless. But anyway, we look at the numbers, we see how we're doing, and we're half the way to lakes. We need to improve our storage area. Things are not looking good. We've got items all over the place. So we put a few more lockers down and things are looking good. Then we're back out. We're at the ice fields. We're doing a bit more exploration. Come across another gold chest. We grab what we can and we break down that gold crate for them good resources. And then we come across like another cave. It's got a lot of iridium in and also a gold chest. So we grab that. We grab whatever else we can in this cave before we place down a marker just to remind ourselves where this is. Not only that, you can also access the higher level when you start growing trees on the planet. Then we're back into another wreck. Obviously, we do want to keep up with finding some useful loot. So we make our way through looking for some useful stuff. Obviously, that's a lot of iron. We don't need that. But the rest of the loot is pretty good to grab. We even get a free rocket engine just lying around on the floor. So things are good. We also find a secret room in this one. Few chests in it. Again, some good loot. Rocket engines, they're always good to just get because you don't have to make them then. It's always good to save up on your super alloy. Then with the living quarter we built just outside of the wreck, we build a few lockers, put a bit of storage before we come into this cave, which becomes sort of important later on, but there's always super alloy lying around on the floor. Why it becomes important is just part of the story. But we also find our first fertilizer. But as you can see, there's a giant door. It's part of the Warden story. We will get to that at some point. We then do end up discovering a place we've actually never been before, and this is one of the new biomes with the 1.0 update. So at this point, I could only see ice and the pulsar cave, but as you go a little bit further on and the ice melts, it does uncover the rainbow caves. So if you do not know what I'm on about, again, part of the 1.0 update, really good though. But we fly around, we look for any chest around and grab any loot that is useful for us. I tried my best not to include too much of like the same old stuff and sort of try and make this as interesting as possible. This is about 30, maybe 40 hours of gameplay all compressed into about an hour of footage. So I did my best just to make sure I didn't, just copy and make sure I show you me open up 10 chests in a row or placing down the same thing over and over again. But as you can see, we had a lot of blueprints to go through. We unlocked some good stuff. The tier 2 jetpack is always going to be useful for us, because once you unlock the jetpacks, life gets easier. And we also now unlock the ability to have a map. But we upgrade our jetpack to tier 2, and obviously we got to give it a quick test fly and have some fun. We then place down our first flower spreader. These are a lot better than the grass spreaders, but again, more power, so we need to build more power generators. We then build a display case we could actually display our refuges that we find. They're kind of pointless, they don't do much, but you can put them on the shelves and they kind of look cool. Then we upgrade our power situation again, and look how much we've got, things are looking good. And then we decide to set off more rockets. This time we send off 2 of each, I believe, and obviously we want to make sure we get our numbers going. Obviously you can send them all off at the same time and they all kind of stick together and do some weird flying thing, all conjoined. But look at them numbers now, things are looking sexy. We then head out, we're doing a little bit more exploring. We decide to check on what we had in the living quarter over here to see if there was anything important before we came across another cave. Again, it's just like a sulfur and osmium cave, nothing crazy, but there is a chest inside, so it's always good to have a look and grab what's inside. Same thing with grabbing the osmium. Osmium is going to be useful in the future. But again, anything you can get that saves your crafting, it's going to make life good. We then come across a down ship, again a blueprint, we get a couple of fuses, but obviously once we get back to base we see that we can now make the new tier 3 jetpack. But before we do that, we make our first algae generator before we make the jetpack, and then we actually place down our first multiplier. Then we place this over down near our flower and grass spreader, meaning we can now increase our oxygen. And this obviously increases the numbers quite a lot, and things are looking good. So we go out and we place down a few more drills. And then we're sending off more rockets. Like I said, it's a lot of rinse and repeat with this game, but it is still fun. We pretty much, if we've got the resources, send off a bunch of rockets and we hope for the best. But once them rockets are set off, we go back to our screen to see how our numbers are doing, and we're going up quick. Things are looking good. But now it's time to upgrade our torch. I've also noticed all I keep saying is things are looking good, but they genuinely are. But we grab our first bit of algae that has grown because again it's going to be useful in the future. Then we make a new flower spreader and chuck in another golden seed. We do this multiple times because we had the right resources to make a bunch, and it's also going to increase our oxygen. Then we place down another heater before we make our first water collector. Then we're back into the mushroom forest because we decide it is finally time to start going into the story. So what we do, we take our Warden key over to the first door in the mushroom forest. Obviously you can find a few notes lying around from the old Warden. You want to place your key onto the altar and it'll open up the door. Then you want to make your way inside where you're going to find a few more notes, and this will sort of give you a backstory about the Wardens and what's going on. I mean, again, you can pause and read it if you want to. If you're not too bothered about the lore, you can just skip it. Then we find another Warden key on an altar and it gives us more coordinates to another place. And then through the final door, we come in and we actually see a ship. I believe this is a Warden ship and this is how they were planning to leave the planet. But I don't think they ever actually left. I'm not too sure. But we head out of there and we head back home. Once we're back home, we place down our next tier of drill, and I mean, these are getting big now, and they are looking good, and it massively increased our pressure level. But we decided to head to the next part of the story and follow the coordinates and head to the big door in the cave that we visited not so long ago. Obviously, we do the same, we place down the key on the altar and we head inside. It does take quite a while to open, so we head outside quickly, make a living quarters just so we can breathe before we head inside. But once inside, obviously, we do need to explore. So we make our way through the archway. Obviously, we're hoping for juicy loot. We don't really find it, but it's still worth it for the story. We find another key and we delve further into this cave. Once inside, we do find some old buildings, as well as finding another key. Whilst inside here, pretty much you've got to find enough keys to open up the door on the end. So we find one in the open, and then we head to the building to the left. There we find another note, before we head to the top and find an additional note. There is a room with a big old glowing ball in it. At this point, I had no clue what this was, because it was never really mentioned at all. But we found the next key location on top of the altar with more coordinates. So we grab that and we head out. We head to the next location and we place down all 3 keys on there, and it opens up the cave into a new area. We built a quick living quarters just so that obviously we needed oxygen. We wanted to make sure we grabbed it. Then we made our way inside, but at this point we didn't know. We actually couldn't get any further because we'd not terraformed the planet enough. So we turned round and we placed down a marker just so we could remember this location. And then we decided to head home. But you have got to admit, the planet's starting to look quite nice. And finally, our waterfall was waterfalling, and it had water coming. Is that what you call it when a waterfall has waterfalling? But we'd finally hit the moss stage, and we were going up to the plant. So we were progressing nice and quick. We also unlocked the tier 2 deconstruction chip, meaning now we could break down like computers from Rex and get microchips from there. We then plucked down a multiplier next to our drills just to increase our pressure just a little bit. So at the moment our pressure was massively high, but we needed to send out a few more rockets just to feel good about it. At this point I'm pretty addicted to sending out rockets, it's like all I do. But it's fun because we get loot from it. We then go and build a tier 2 biodome. The good thing about this, it does generate tree bark for you. So then you can use the tree bark for like crafting recipes and also making different rockets. And to celebrate, we sent out more rockets. But then I had to go around and pick up some of the materials that were left over from the previous rockets that I just didn't pick up at that point. I mean, we had so much uranium and iridium in storage that we were overflowing. So at this point, I didn't even need the resources. I just sent the rockets up for fun. We then decided to do a bit more exploring and go to another wreck. Lucky enough, this wreck does have a gold chest on top, and it's one I always remember to go and grab. Once we grab that, we quickly check out the cave just next to the wreck to see if there's anything useful before we head inside and have a look what we can find inside this wreck and hopefully find some good loot. We grabbed everything we could from inside this wreck, meaning all the blueprints, all the alloys, everything we can find, before we decided to head back home. Lucky enough for us, obviously there's a few rocket engines and a few plants, even a few heaters. Again though, still nothing too crazy. Won't really be till later on that we start finding some amazing stuff in wrecks anyway. But like I said, we do always go and make sure we read the messages just for anyone interested in the lore. And as we can see, this is actually from a cargo ship that crashed in the year 3021. When we get back home, we see that we are pretty close to getting to the flora stage. And then we decode our blueprints just to see if we can get anything useful before we check on our power situation. As you can see, we're running low, so we decide to build another nuclear reactor. Then we decide to set up another multiplier and put a heat fuse inside. Now our heat is looking very good. Then we flow down another flower spreader with a golden seed inside. Then we're back out and we're doing more exploration. We're over in the meteor field and we're having a look around. We grab some good useful resources like zeolite and we come across quite a good chest. As you can see, this one has got a fuse in. If I opened that chest before we got to this level, it probably wouldn't have had a fuse in. But we place down another living quarters before we find another underground base. It's a bit of an abandoned one, there's a few buildings, but there is a lot of loot inside. This is another one that is really worth checking out. I mean, look how many super alloys we've got at this point, like, that's a decent amount. We do actually head back to base and like empty our inventory before we head back, just because we had so much stuff. But then we also had our first osmium and sulfur meteor come down, which is, you know, a good thing to get. And with that, we do make our first gas extractor. And then we have a look to see that we're actually finished on the moss stage and we are onto the flora stage. But enough of that, we are back to the base that we found and we want to make sure we grab all the loot from underground. What you always seem to notice is, at the beginning of the game, aluminium is the most important thing you need. And then about halfway through, you never need to use it again. And then you're onto super alloy. And then towards the end, super alloy is a bit pointless. But it's sort of how it goes on. So it is worth stockpiling sort of everything you find, because everything is going to be useful at some point. But as we can see, the person inside this base has gone a little crazy. He sort of plastered the wall with a bunch of messages, and yeah, he's not very happy. What can I say? Not everybody's got the mental strength like us. But anyway, we loot that place and we head back home. We got some really good loot from there, and you know, things are going to be even easier going ahead. Once we decode all our blueprints, we head over to the heating building and put a few platforms down just outside. Because now we have even the better heaters, and these ones can't be placed in the building and do need to be placed somewhere outside because of the size of them. Then we're back looking at the numbers, seeing them increase, and it's making us very happy. Then we send off our first oxygen rocket. With these, pretty much it's just going to multiply the oxygen just like it does with the other one. So we send off a couple of them, and it's going to make our number go even higher. Oh, look at that. It's beautiful. Next thing, we go outside and we place down a miner tier 2. Then obviously we're out of power, we have to place down another nuclear reactor, but that's okay. But then again, we're sending out rockets, but this time we are sending out plant rockets, meaning it's just going to increase our plant production. Again, always very useful. The oxygen in the plant one doesn't actually bring anything down, no asteroids come, it just pretty much brings down like a weird green like fog, as you can see. But now we're able to create the tier 2 plant spreaders. So again, we destroy our old ones, place down tier 2s and place down the golden seed inside. It obviously requires more power, but it also, you know, pumps out more, you know, oxygen and plants. We then make our tier 2 deconstruction chip, and we decide against doing the tier 3, but we do make the tier 2 and the tier 3 mining speed. Again, I don't really see much of a difference from this, but then we make the map chip. Again, we didn't even send up a map rocket at this point, so you couldn't see anything. It's a bit pointless, but we'll do it in the future. But we're back out, and we are exploring it again. We're now heading towards the first wreck we went through to get rid of the technical debris, just so we could get some circuit boards from it, and it also meant we could explore it even further. Inside, there was nothing crazy, but the circuit boards are useful in the future, and now we're able to build the air filter, which means that our oxygen will go down even slower. And then we had some weird purple storm come down, but we ignored it, placed a few more lockers, just so we could put our circuit boards in, because we didn't really want them filling up the inventory somewhere else. But there we are again, more rockets. We cannot be stopped. I mean, I don't know if there's actually a limit on how many rockets you can do. I think there is, and I think I do reach it because I started sending rockets and like the numbers just weren't increasing. But as you can see, we had reached the tree stage. But before we could really do anything else, we wanted to go out and explore a little bit more. And as you can see, now the fart hole was like empty. It was now no longer farty and was just nice. But we found another cave and we went in and we made sure to grab all the loot that we found. And now we were hoping that we'd reach the right terraformation level so we could actually progress with the story and gain access to that next area. So we make our way there and we descend into the weird opening cave and we come across this beautiful area. Sort of looks like a jungle. But it's sort of the same situation as the last area. Go round, pick up the keys, get a north so you can open up the door. But this time, instead of the door being in a different location, the door is in the same location. So we've got to pick up, I think it's 5 keys from here to open up the main door of the building so we can get inside and see what is inside. But as this is obviously, you know, I've done this before, I'm not going to bore you trying to find the locations. I know where they all are. We put all 5 keys in and we wait for the door to open. And once we get inside, we do get some very good loot. We actually get some golden butterfly larvae, or you know, babies. I don't really know what they are. But then we get another message from the Wardens. So we give that a quick read, I promise. We don't just skip it. And we grab all the loot. Of course, we ain't messing about. We grab what we need and then we head back home. There isn't really too much else in there worth even looking at, but it's up to you. But once we get back, we see we can now make the next level of power generators. So we make that before making another display case so we can show off more of our effigies. Then you guessed it, we're back at the launch platform sending off even more rockets. So at this point we had sent that rocket off, and then we decided to make our way back to our storage room because not only were we running out of room, we also had access to our auto crafter, meaning now we didn't have to make things ourselves. We could just go onto the machine, say what we wanted to build, and if we had the resources it would build it for us. We then placed down another tier 4 heater before making an expansion onto our biodome so that inside we could place down the incubator. With that, pretty much you can put certain stuff inside and make certain different things like a bee or a butterfly or eggs or a silkworm. So we started on that straight away. But then again, we are out and about. This time we're heading over to the Iridium Cave because now we can make our way to the top because the tree has grown from the bottom to the top and we can climb it and go to the roof. It's a little bit dark, it was hard to see, but for some reason it always records brighter than my gameplay, so that's good for the viewers. So obviously there is some good loot on the top. We grab all the useful stuff and we leave the rest. And whilst on top we can see how beautiful this world is coming together. Then we went even further and we actually come across a new area we've not been to just yet. We do find a few chests around this area with useful loot in, as always, because loot is always useful, let's be honest. Then we make our way to the warp gate. This was obviously used at some point for people to walk back and forth, but we build up a living quarters with a bit of storage just so we can get oxygen and store items before we make our way into the wreck of the warp gate and have a look what we can find. Lucky for us, again, this super alloy, and it's super useful, it's pretty much in the name. But we grab everything we can before obviously we exit the wreck and start making our way back home to hopefully put use to a lot of this, stuff we're finding. But obviously we see a message, I ain't reading that, I'm pretending I'm reading it, I ain't. If I wanted to read, I'd get a Kindle, but I'm not. But to be fair, it's not like I don't enjoy reading, I just don't want to read in game, like, I don't want to. But obviously we do put a marker down just so we can get back to the warp gate if we ever didn't know where to go. But when we were going past the wreck there, we did see that now we could make our way to the top of the canyon. And this was amazing because it was full of super alloy and a lot of other loot. I didn't even know this was a thing, but now it is. But also now there was a shortcut from one side of the map to the other. We could now get to the waterfall, like 10 minutes quicker than you could before because of this big gap. Whereas before you'd have to literally do a full circle of the whole map just to get to the other side, whereas now there's a cut through in the middle and it makes getting back and forth so much easier. But we make a DNA manipulator before we send off more rockets. We do also decide to send off the tier 1 GPS satellite, meaning we can now use the map, and it's number 1, meaning you can only zoom out like to that level, whereas when you get the tier 4 you can zoom out all the way and see the whole map in one. But what I do like now is the map is actually interactive, and if you're, sending off a rocket, you can see that. So the map does change with the environment. But yeah, more rockets, more heaters, things are going good. We then decide to deconstruct our old optimizer and place down the tier 2, meaning we can now put 3 fuses inside, and it also affects up to 8 machines instead of 5. So we place 3 fuses inside, all of them being oxygen, and it also now means it's something like 1,500% increase, so our oxygen numbers are through the roof. We then decide to expand our storage area because we just didn't have enough room. We were running out way too quick. So with that, we had a whole nother area to place down even more lockers. So this was going to make things a lot easier. Then we set up the trade rocket, meaning we can now trade with traders off planet and you get, stuff in return. At this point, I didn't have any currency to trade with them, so I had to find that, or I'd send them stuff, but nothing's really worth that much money. We're then sending off another plant rocket. Again, we want these numbers going up even faster. Once we had done that, we decided to go to the other side of the map, where we actually found a gold chest that must have just been lying around and we hadn't seen it before. So obviously we looted that and grabbed what was inside. Then we had our first super alloy storm, meaning a bunch of super alloy just came from the sky and it was all over the ground, and we picked up as much as we could, because if we left the area and came back it would have despawned. So pretty much you've just got to grab what you can at the moment. Lucky for us, our inventory was quite empty, so we was able to grab quite a lot. So once our inventory was full, we made our way back home to drop it all off, because obviously we couldn't just walk around with a full inventory. So at this point we had more than a locker full worth of super alloy. And then we decided to head back over to where we recently been at the canyon and even grab more super alloy that was all lying around the top. And as well, they were even on another level of the canyon. I don't really know how to explain it. There's like multiple levels and there's super alloy all around. It's pretty good. And then we went where we went before, where it was too frozen for us to get to the different caves, where we thought it was just pulsar quartz to discover the rainbow caves. Inside of here, there's multiple crystals, different colours, all meaning different things, and you use them in the future. So we grab what we can before heading home and setting up our first tree spreaders. Lucky enough, we had a few tree seeds lying around, so we didn't have to make any at this point. And then we set off even more rockets. A lot of this game is about sending off rockets. I mean, look how many times I've sent off rockets at this point. But as you can see, we're closing in on a breathable atmosphere, meaning we're now only losing 1 oxygen a second. So the closer we get to the breathable atmosphere, the less oxygen we will lose a second, meaning it's now going to be easy for us to breathe outside, until eventually we'll be able to without running out of oxygen. We then decided to set up another multiplier just where we planted our trees, and then we put the oxygen filters on as well as the plant one, meaning it's just going to go even quicker. And now we have bees. I mean, look at them. Bees are cool, especially on this. And now we are even getting up on the insects level, just because of our bees. So after that, we decided to set up a butterfly dome. In here, obviously, we can now place our golden butterflies that we got from the story. So they're just going to fly around, look nice, and give us insects, you know, terraformation. So all's good. Then we placed down our first tier 2 food grower. Pretty much the exact same as the tier 1, yet it grows even quicker. And that is good because we were at a point where we were running out of food constantly. So we make our way over to the Wrexham Canyon area, and we grab some of the stuff out the locker, some of it is useful, before coming across a random plant on top of a hill. I don't think we grabbed this plant at this point, so it was kind of cool to have. Then we just sort of did a bit more exploration, looking for, you know, chests or anything that we could find, before replacing another one of our tier 1 with a tier 2 food growers. Then we had another asteroid coming down. I mean, I just watched it come down. I mean, it's cool, isn't it? But this one was full of pulsar quartz. Again, gonna be very useful coming up because we need them for power generators, for fusion cores, and a lot of useful stuff in the future. But now was time to make travelling around so much easier. We now had access to teleporters, and with that, we now could place them anywhere we wanted to place them, and we can just teleport nice and quick back and forth. So we placed one obviously at a base, and we placed one at the Rainbow Cave. The Rainbow Cave was pretty much the furthest away point, but also a very usable location. After that, we decided to go and explore another Warden location. This isn't really marked anywhere, it's not part of the story, it's just an area that you can find if you are lucky enough or if you know where to look. So obviously you've got to head down this massive cave underwater, and it's pretty deep. I mean, if you were scared of water, you'd be scared of that. But I ain't scared of shit. But as you can see, we find another message. Clearly the person who had been on this planet before has even tried to live here. God, he's been all over the place. I mean, he clearly has not found anywhere good to live. But anyway, we found a Warden message before we came up some big old stone stairs into another area, and it's called the Connote biome. So once we got inside of here, we did find another message, but we also found a Warden key detector. With that, you can pretty much craft it, put it on, and you can find random Warden keys all over the world. If you find all 10 of them, you can use them to get an alternative ending at the end of the game. I sadly did not do that, but if that is something you want to see me do, I will happily do it and make another video on it if you do want to see all the endings that you can do. So anyway, we unlock that blueprint and then we send off more rockets. We send off a seed rocket, a plant rocket, just whatever we can send off, and then we watch it fly up on the map before we head to a teleporter and we make our way over to the Rainbow Caves. So the main reason we came over here was just to grab sort of a bunch of each different type of quartz, just to see if any of them were going to be useful in the future. The different colour ones, I weren't too sure what they were going to be used for, but the pulsar, obviously I already, know they are very useful. So I believe there's like 4 or 5 different of the new ones. Again, I haven't really got much use for them at the moment, but we will do in the future. And then we do get our first Terra tokens. That is the currency you use to trade with the traders. Obviously you need them and you can get stuff in return for using them. like, you know, you can get like a tier 2 crafting station for food, or you can get like different fuses. So once we grab all the quartz that we are looking for, we make our way back home. Then with these quartz that we acquired, we decided to make the Warden key detector. I wasn't really too sure how this was going to work. I didn't know if I was just going to like walk around and it was going to pop up, or if I was going to hear a noise. But yeah, kind of weird. Anyway, we make our first tier 3 tree spreader and our first outdoor farm. And then we unlocked the fusion energy cells, and with them we could unlock extra parts of different wrecks. So you go in, you go to the fusion energy thing, I don't even know what it is, and you unlock more doors, but you get a lot of Terra tokens for these, and obviously with the Terra tokens you can get better stuff through the trader. So it is worth doing this. You do get quite a lot of loot, and if you can see, look how many Terra tokens we get just from this. I mean, some of them are worth like 5k. So obviously we grab all the loot available to us now, and we make our way back home. Once we're back home, we decide to make some new butterfly lavas so we can place them into a new butterfly dome, hoping that that was going to increase our terraformation levels even further. Then we placed down another teleporter down at the volcano because we were running low on obsidian. So we put the teleporter down, grabbed all the obsidian we needed, and then made our way back home. Once home, we were placing down more tree spreaders before we sent off our first tier 4 map rocket, you know, whatever it's called, satellite. And with this, it meant that we could just skip tier 2 and 3 and just go straight to the tier 4, and now we had access to the whole map. But we're building more tree spreaders, we're sending off more rockets. It was a lot of the same old at this point, we just needed to progress even further. We then made our way over to the trader rocket where we had previously sent off for a tier 2 locker storage. With this, pretty much you just had a bigger like storage thing. It was loads bigger than the lockers, and also, you know, took up less room. So we crafted them, but we also had our auto crafter making more fusion cores. So we grabbed 5 of them, and then we made our way to look for more wrecks so we could actually, you know, open them up and get more loot. Not all the wrecks have the fusion reactors, but I think about maybe like 4 of them do, so it's worth just finding the ones that do, going in and grabbing what you can. Again, it's even just worth it for the Terra tokens, because you can get stuff, say, from the traders that you can't find around the world. But you can see there is a lot of loot in this one, and it's going to make life easy. But now we decide to take our golden butterflies out of the dome and place them into our outdoor butterfly farms. This meant, you know, things were going to even go higher up with our insect. We then went back to the volcano because obviously there is a wreck there, and we're going to use one of the fusion cores to go inside here and open it up. So we make our way inside, we unlock it. I mean, I'm not going to lie, like I always say, this wreck is just really not that good. But either way, you can still get good loot from it. It is a big time saver not having to make all the fertilizers and all the rods, so it is worth it. But once back home, we decide to make more butterfly farms before we run out of energy again and have to make another generator. But we placed down one more butterfly farm and things were looking good. We placed our new butterflies in, and as you can see, we now had butterflies flying all over the place. Whilst out and about exploring, we found a really nice chest with some Terra tokens, but also some good rods, before we came across our first Warden key in the wild. I mean, we still had 9 to go. At this point, I didn't even realise that they unlocked a secret ending. I just wasn't too sure what they were for. But anyway, we're in another wreck. We've unlocked it. Well, let's have a look what we find inside. Again, Terra tokens, you know, fuses, some useful stuff, but again, nothing too crazy. Then we make our way to the last wreck with the fusion reactor in that we can put our core into and power up. So we do that, we put in the cell, and we have a look around and grab all the loot we can before we make our way home. I always feel that this is sort of the slow part in the game where it takes a while, and you know, you've just got to constantly be out looking for stuff and just slowly upgrading. Because I mean, like, everything makes a difference, but it does take quite a while. Hence why, you know, it's going to take you 30, 40 plus hours just to get to the end. And that is only if you are playing solo. Obviously now they've got multiplayer and you can have up to 10 people on a server, which is quite cool. And I think that's what they brought out with the 1.0. I don't think you could do that before. So I know a few people are doing like hardcore servers, meaning that obviously if you die, you're pretty much you're done. But obviously it's like if you run out of oxygen, food or water. But anyway, rockets. And let's be honest, look at the numbers now. They are going up high. I can't even read that number. I don't even know what that number is. But now we had access to the aquarium, and with that we can put fish eggs in and grow fish, and they just swim around, you know, fish. But we had access to our big boy tier 5 heater. I mean, look at the size of that thing. That thing was huge. But we decided that is not enough. We needed 3 fuses on it. We need to get this power going up high. The heat on it was unreal. But then we sent off another rocket just to make sure. I mean, look at the heat now. Beautiful. That number pretty much says like a lot. If you see that number, it means a lot. Anyway, we did send off another trader rocket, and inside that we've got a fish egg, butterfly, and a frog egg. So things are looking good. So we put our 2 fish eggs into the aquarium, and now we had nice fish just swimming around doing fish stuff. Couldn't yet do anything with a frog egg, so we kept hold of that and we put our new butterfly outside. We then changed one of our tree seeds with a better one before placing down another tree spreader. Then we did unlock the portal generator, but we did not have the right resources at the moment to be able to actually craft it. Then we made a silk generator before we headed out trying to find some more pulsar quartz. So we went to the rainbow caves and looked for some more because obviously we needed them to make the portal generator, as that was going to be able to send us to distant wrecks and hope to find more loot. This is again something new that they brought into the 1.0 update. So we had a look round, trying our best to find as many pulsar quartz as possible, and there just wasn't much. I even placed down a miner hoping that it was going to help, and it just didn't. We then crafted our first fish generator. This was going to give us like plankton, A, B and C, as well as the occasional fish eggs. And then we saw we could make the tier 6 backpack, and now we had so much more room, and it was obviously a very needed upgrade. But we were back, we were looking for more pulsar quartz, we wanted more. We needed them, we wanted to get the crafting done so we could finally see the new portal generator. So once we got the final core built, we headed over to a new area and placed down our portal generator. And then we accessed the computer to see that you need different gems to get to different ones. And, you know, so you had a reason now for the different colour gems. So obviously we made sure to go back to our storage area and grab what we needed so we could finally set up going somewhere new. But obviously then I realised you could actually just make pulsar quartz. So all this time I was looking, I could have just been crafting them. But then we made a tier 2 gas extractor because we were running out of methane cartridges, so we placed them. Then we made the portal so we could get to the new area. Obviously this is kind of cool, but once we got there we saw it was like not just an actual wreck, it was actually like a whole area with chests outside as well as a wreck. So obviously we made sure to explore and grab everything we could before heading inside this new wreck, hoping to find something unique that it promised us. I don't know if this one, you know, didn't have anything too unique just because it was like your first wreck. I mean, I got some frog eggs. I don't know if that's unique, but I didn't really get too much. But we still decided to explore around, find all the chests we could and grab everything because obviously we wanted to get back and put our new stuff to some use. So we headed back through the big old portal and made sure to close it once we got to the other side. I mean, look at the loot we got. It's quite good, I'd say. We then decided to place down another building with a door so we could place another aquarium inside because we now had a bunch of, like, you know, fish eggs that we just had lying around. So we decided to place them inside just so it gave us a boost on animals until we had something new to do with it. We then built our first amphibian farm, but before we could actually see any frogs going around, we needed more power. So we placed down another nuclear generator just for now, and now we were onto the amphibian stage. So this is the second to last stage pretty much. And when we went to our new fish generator, we actually saw it had some eggs inside that we could place into an aquarium. I then had a really smart idea. I would send off for some energy fuses with the traders, and then with that, I was going to put down a multiplier near our generators and then put them inside, and it's going to give us more power and, you know, big brain moves. But whilst we waited for the trader to come back, we decided to send off a shit ton of rockets. Rockets are good, rockets are fun, rockets are all we need. I mean, let's be honest, look how many rockets we're sending off at this point. It's like rocket after rocket after rocket. We are genuinely going to be like zooming through. I mean, we even had like rocket orgies going on. But anyway, we'll look at them numbers. Things are going nice and fast. So we send off even more rockets. I know what you're thinking. He's a maniac. You can't send off this many rockets. It should be illegal. What are you going to do? Who are you going to tell? But anyway, we try our plan, and look how much like energy we have now. 20,000 available. That's like more than we need. But we decide to go explore another wreck. And whilst we're setting it up, we get a notification about a tier 5 drill, and we had to go see the size of this bad boy. I mean, look at it. So we decided to place a machine optimizer just next to it, just to increase the pressure, because we want our big boy tier 5 drills just near it. Then we head to this distant wreck, and again it's a big open area, and we decide to explore around and try and find this wreck. Obviously there's a bunch of chests all over the place, so we grab what we can, and this is the first time we get a genetic trait. At this point I didn't even know what this was. I've never, even heard of it. So I was a bit confused, and so I took it, put it in my inventory, and was like, we'll deal with that later when it comes to it. But we find the wreck and we make our way inside. This one was a lot bigger than the last one, and there was a lot more exploration to do. But obviously we just grabbed all the important stuff, and we actually got a trade rocket multiplier fuse, meaning that the trade rocket would come back sooner. Which is kind of good if you're using it a lot, but I only used it like 3 or 4 times. We then made a fish farm where you can just put down fish into it, and it's better than having them in the aquarium. Just the usual sort of progression sort of stuff. But obviously this one, I had fish floating in the air, so I decided to move it into more deeper water. We then places down some more big bad boy drills, because I mean, why not? Look at the size of them. We look like we're doing serious business here. And then we ended up another wreck, because obviously we're going to go see what there is. This one was quite disappointing on the surface, because for a while I couldn't figure out where to go. There was nothing around, no loot. And then I found a hole in the ground and I followed it and found the wreck. So that was okay once I found that. I mean, it wasn't too bad inside this wreck. There was a lot more loot than the last one, and it was quite good, but it still wasn't the best we've been in. The last one that we do go in, though, I can tell you now, is a lot better. But as you can see, we're now getting access cards, and with these access cards, you can open up a door at the end that require them. You always end up to get more than you need. The access door only requires like 2 cards, but you end up getting like 7 or 8, so I just start leaving them after a while, because I know I don't need that many. But anyway, as you can see, we're getting a lot of tokens, a lot of loot, fuses, the lot. So this is, working out a lot better. But we head to the portal and we head home. Then obviously we close the portal because we have no reason to leave it open. Then we place down another big tier 5 drill. And then obviously now it's time to get rid of the aquarium and start placing our fish over in the water. This time we decide to move over some different area of water to place down more fish. We don't want to crowd up the same water with algae generators, fish, the lot. And then we're sending off more rockets. I mean, who would have guessed, the rockets just don't stop. I actually would love to know how many rockets I've actually sent off altogether, because I imagine it's a very high number. I'm pretty sure this is the point where we actually reach the limit of pressure, because I send off this rocket and then I go check out the number and it doesn't even move. I also got smacked by a meteor, so yeah, living my best life right now. We decided to place down more amphibian farms, and pretty much we just place them down all over, spread them out, put down a frog's heads, hoping to get the terraformation up even higher. And we do the same with a few more fish farms, and now we're able to improve our beehives to tier 2, meaning they just made 4 honey instead of 1. And then I spent ages making the wrong things that I needed. I needed fucking bee ones, but I made silkworms. How annoying. But bee farms, we're setting them up. We're making tier 2 beehives. It's just a lot of improvement at this point, as well as more rockets. There isn't really too much for us to do other than just wait for our number to improve. So we decide to go to another wreck, and this is probably the best one we've been in so far. It is the same location as the last, but lucky enough this time, instead of it just being the single wreck, there's actually 2 wrecks inside. So obviously we make our way inside, we're grabbing access key cards, we're grabbing everything we need, and we're aiming to find the end where all the good loot is. So we go in, and again there's 4 lockers, bunch of different loot, terra tokens, a lot. We grab it all, and then we quickly pop back home and place everything back into our storage, because we had a full inventory at this point, before we made our way to the second wreck. That's a good thing about these. I mean, you can pop in and out the portal whenever and constantly be back and forth without it closing or losing anything. But if you do pass out whilst there, you will lose everything. So that's a little bit annoying. But we got another genetic trait this time, and I still didn't really have a clue what these were for. But I do begin to understand in a little bit. But we get to the final room, and obviously we open it up and grab all the loot. Grab everything we can. At this point, we actually got the achievement for having 100,000 terra tokens altogether, which obviously, I mean, we had a ridiculous amount. But anyway, we head back through the portal and make our way home. We closed the portal because obviously we didn't need to open it at this point. Then we place down another tier 5 drill. I mean, we just want to get the pressure up at this point, and it's just helping towards terraformation. We also then started placing down the tier 2 butterfly farms, meaning now we could place 2 butterflies into the same farm, and it also increased the levels. And now we also had aquariums that we could place in the water, which was quite cool. So obviously we built the door for that and saw that we could put fish eggs inside, meaning we could have 3 different fish all, like, you know, swimming around doing fish stuff inside, which are kind of cool, and obviously they are a lot better than the fish farms that we had before. Then we placed down our first animal shelter. At this point, I mean, I was hoping the animals were just going to come to me, but that's not the case. I have to like make the animals, and that's what you use the genetic traits for, and at this point I didn't realise. So I'm sending off anyway, sending off a bunch of rockets, and then I make the DNA manipulator, and now I can put the genetic traits inside. But I was a bit confused how you got more genetic traits. I was still waiting for animals to come to me so I could feed them and pet them, hoping that was going to give me the traits that I needed. But then I realised that that isn't the case. I actually have to again make them, and then they come to me. It was confusing at this point, alright, but now I know what I'm doing. It's quite simple as amphibian farms and make another aquarium in the water before we make our cooking station, because we needed that to be able to make some flour with our wheat so we could actually make the feeding station for the animal shelters. Because if there's not food for the animals, they don't grow, and you also don't get any genetic traits from petting them. And then this is where I realised I actually need the genetic extractor to then make the different things. So then that's how you get these genetic traits. It's very confusing when you first start, but once you understand it, it is quite simple. So at this point, I was just getting everything I could to make a bunch of different creature DNA. So we placed it in, put it into our animal shelter, and we had our first animal. I mean, look at that. Look how cool that is. And you can actually change the different traits and make it quite unique. So at this point, I just spent a lot of time putting everything and anything inside this machine to get all the traits I could to make a bunch of different animals. Because the more animals, the better. We made them look different, made them cool. We wanted to see if we could make something that was really unique. So we placed down the new animals, and we could see that they were small and cute and looking cool. And now we had finally access to the animal spreader rocket. We pretty much sent fish to space. I mean, that's kind of crazy, but okay, I mean, people did it with monkeys, you know, and a dog, so why not fish? But then we also discovered that we could pet the animals. It was a bit funky, you had to kind of get at the right angle and try figure it out. But once you did that, you did get genetic traits from them, and then obviously now we had an easy way to get genetic traits. So we just sent off a shit ton of animal rockets, and obviously, you know, it's all good. So we are closing in to sort of the end game at the moment. There was not a lot for me to do other than wait around, place more animals, you know, and not really do too much. So once we placed all the animals down, all I had to do was keep them fed before we reached the final stage. We had now complete terraformation. We had actually finished terraforming the planet, and now we had access to the extraction platform. With this, all we had to do was build it, and then hopefully we were going to extract. But I didn't realise at this point there was an anomaly, an anomaly. Right, we're going to try that again. An anomaly blocking me from leaving, and it was somewhere in this area. At this point, I didn't realise, you know, what it was or what I was looking for, but then I got a notification about receiving a message, and now I could make an explosive device. So obviously, I decided to build the communication device. First time I did it, I don't really do it, I'm not that bothered, but I saw that it was something to do with, you know, an anomaly that is blocking us. And my brain worked, and I thought, is it that weird big ball that we've seen that we've never been able to do out with? And guess what? It was. We made our way over to the big ball, and we placed the bombs underneath. Obviously, I don't know why you got to blow it up. I mean, there's probably like a nicer way to do this, but who cares? Set the bomb down, press the big red button. Even though people say don't press the big red button, you're going to do it, and you blow the place up. I mean, I was hoping for a bit more, you know, craziness, but yeah. Anyway, we get to the rocket, the extraction is complete, and we leave the planet. We're placing our fate in the hands of the Sentinel Corp. Sentinel Corp are obviously the people that we are imprisoned by, so we are now hoping that they are going to let us go. but you don't actually find out. So we have terraformed the planet successfully, the place looks amazing, and now they will re-examine our sentence based on various deviations from the rules, and you know, they're going to lock us up again and pretty much be like, yeah, you're going down, mate. 200 copies of Cars 2, illegally, it's not that bad. But anyway, this has been Planet Crafter. I've been the Great Dane. If you've enjoyed, like, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.